So what if I told you that you could turn your kitchen waste and your yard waste into dark, rich soil full of nutrients that your plants are going to love, also known as compost. And compost is also known as black gold.
So today we're going to show you how to make a compost pile, and it's the perfect time of year to do that because we're going to do that at the same time as we do a yard cleanup. And once you know how to make a compost pile, you'll never have to buy soil again.
What is composting? Composting is basically nature's recycling system. Think about it. Branches and twigs fall off the trees, leaves fall from the trees, plants die, and all that turns into rich, dark soil. So basically what we're doing today is copying nature. So think of compost as a soil factory in your own backyard.
So we're going to do two systems for compost today. One for kitchen scraps and the other for yard waste. Why?
There's an important reason for that, and that's because of the animals, the wildlife in your area. There might be raccoons or rats, opossums, foxes, and they'll make a mess of your kitchen scraps if you put them in your yard waste pile. If you mix your kitchen scraps into your other compost pile with yard waste, you're actually creating a wildlife buffet. So I keep my kitchen scraps separate and contained. So for kitchen scraps, I use a special composting container. And you can buy that container at your local nursery or gardening center. You can also sometimes find it at a hardware store. Here's what you can compost from your kitchen. You can compost dairy products, meat scraps, and seafood scraps. You can also compost fruit and vegetable scraps, eggshells, coffee and coffee filter, tea and tea bags, house plants, cut flowers, paper towels, and egg cartons. But what I do not put in my kitchen waste is newspaper, because the print in newspaper, the ink has lead in it. If you only add food scraps to your food scrap compost bin, it's going to get wet, smelly, and slimy. So I always recommend that you layer it. So you can layer it with leaves. You can also layer it with straw or grass clippings or hay, and you can layer it with weeds. So for those of you who live in a cold climate during the winter, when there's snow on the ground and you need to layer your food scrap compost bin, you can use one of these and stick it in your garage or an outdoor building and make sure you have a lid on it. So you can put straw or hay or leaves from your fall cleanup in here, and you can even use sawdust to layer your kitchen compost bin in the wintertime. So here's another tip. Always start your kitchen scrap compost container with sticks and leaves in the bottom of it. This allows airflow underneath the pile and improves drainage.
So now we're going to start our second compost pile from our garden waste.
So you can keep your compost in a box like this, or just keep it in a pile. So where do you put your compost pile? I put mine in a shady spot at the edge of the yard under a tree, because you do not want to get it soaked with water during a heavy rain. So you want your compost pile moist, not soaking wet. And if it's dry, you can always water it. So usually in the spring, you start your yard cleanup with picking up branches and twigs that have fallen off the trees, and that's a perfect time to start a compost pile. So what I do is I clean up my yard from sticks, and I break them down a little bit. And I fill up a bucket. So you want to start your compost pile with sticks, because that creates an airflow underneath the compost pile. It's going to help break down the compost pile faster.
So the next thing in your yard cleanup is raking leaves, and they can go on top of the sticks in your compost pile.
And if you don't have leaves, you can use grasses or straw. And spread it out nice and evenly.
And the next thing you're going to do in your spring cleanup is weeding. And those can go on the compost pile next.
So what you want to think about when you're piling up things on your compost pile is you want to think about doing layers. A good tip is to think about do every other layer brown and every other layer green. So I have another tip for you. If you put grass clippings on a compost pile, sprinkle them on the compost pile so that they don't clump together. And oh, I have another tip for you guys. If you have a lot of leaves in your yard in the spring, what you can do is create a pile of leaves next to your compost pile that you can use for layering throughout the season. So how long are your kitchen scraps going to take to compost in your compost bin? Well, I'd say about 6 months, give or take a couple of months. It depends on how good you are at layering in your compost bin. So how long is your garden waste compost going to take? Well, that's going to take about 1 to 2 years, and that's why we want you to start now. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips now how to make it go faster. One thing you can do is you can take some old compost that has worms and microorganisms in it and throw that on the pile, and that will speed up the process. Another thing that you can do is when you're putting stuff on the compost pile, cut it up into smaller pieces. And the third thing you can do is you can keep a pitchfork by the pile, and every couple of days you can take the pitchfork and turn the pile. How do you know if your compost pile is ready? Your kitchen scraps should not smell. And the material should be dark and crumbly, and you shouldn't be able to recognize any of the original scraps. And it should also smell like rich and earthy. It should not be stinky. So now we've just talked about our first soil amendment, compost. So we're now starting to talk about the soil.
So compost, or as we call it, black gold, is something that you want to start now, so you have it for next season.
Okay, so we have just talked about our first soil amendment, and that's compost.
What am I saying?
You're saying and if you...
Oh, yeah, okay. If you like this video, don't forget to press a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to follow us on our gardening journey here in Mallorca.
And thanks for watching.
See you next time.